You can go to bible.ca to get this article, the full Hebrew Bible scripts. This is as far as I will agree with them, that there were four. The first one I've already elucidated in the Wadi al-Hol inscriptions, which we saw were a very rudimentary script, which still has a lot of connection with hieroglyphs. And later, with the Phoenician inscriptions of Ahiram's sarcophagus, we see a more developed script. And that's the second here, where does it say here? Here it is, second Paleo-Hebrew script of the Phoenician type. And later, after the exile, what happened to that? So the Aramaic square script, the Aramaic write their alphabet in a squarish way, and here Hebrew developed into to something very similar to Aramaic, what we call Aramaic square script, which is what Bibles, the Tanakh is written in. And finally, the Masoretic, which is much later, 600 AD, where initially all these previous alphabets are all consonantal. That means only consonants. You don't know, there are no vowels. It was the Masoretic that added the vowels, like dot, dot, dash, dash, where you can now tell that it's a ba or b, a bo or boo. That's the Masoretic. That's the contribution of the Masoretic, leading to what we have today. When we read Hebrew, we have to read those dashes, what it says, the dagesh we call it. So whether Hebrew is the first alphabet or not, I don't know, but we know that there were a very ancient script which later developed into the Phoenician and also Paleo-Hebrew. I mean, that much we can ascertain. As to whether Hebrew is the first alphabet or not, it really doesn't matter, but we can see the progression of writing for the Bible anyway. I'm only interested in writing the Bible so that we can answer these questions for ourselves. And when asked, we say, well, it wasn't written until we have, after the exile, until we have what we have today, the Aramaic square script, which is not true. There was an earlier development of Paleo-Hebrew, the Phoenician script, which has an even earlier heritage, earlier ancestor, which we found in Egypt inside Wadi al-Hol, and also the Sarabit turquoise mines around the time of the Jewish sojourn and adventure in Egypt. So they had something to use with that Joseph possibly used it in his accounting. When he grew grain to store for the during the 7 fat years in order to prepare for the 7 lean years. Remember that story? And then this was possibly the first script that Moses used to write the early books, because Jesus did say, Moses gave you the Torah, and God said continuously to Moses, write this down. And even God on Mount Sinai wrote what was the New Testament, what was the 10 Commandments written in. There was a script. Previous to that, there was only oral transmission. There was Hebrew being spoken, but in a very rudimentary oral way. And then as the demands needed, you have a script, alphabet, instead of using the huge cumbersome hieroglyphs or the huge cumbersome cuneiform. So what was it written in? It's very possibly, most likely, on papyrus scrolls, and vellum. Vellum is animal skin. So what you do is you write it in scrolls, and with papyrus, each time you roll it out, roll it back, roll it out, it doesn't last very long and it falls apart. So I believe that there was continuous copying because of that problem, until finally we have what we have, more and more form of material that lasts. And besides, papyrus is vegetable material, and therefore does not lend itself into to being fossilized. So therefore we do not have the originals or anywhere close to the originals, but there is, I believe there's constant copying. So until until the Phoenician script came along, then it was written in the Paleo Hebrew, the old ancient Hebrew script, which we have a lot of examples today, like especially the inscriptions on stone and on sarcophagus. These are the only things that lasted. And there we have it. Until, well, of course, after exile, it changed into a different script until we have today, and we have printing today. So there you go. So that's all as far as we can really ascertain. Oftentimes we like to have good, pure examples. Look, this is proof that there is a God. We want solid proof for some reason in order for more people to believe. But I've never known these things. I've always had questions, but still believe. And Jesus said, blessed are those who have not seen, but yet believed. And that's who we are. But just good to know so that we can answer questions. How was the Bible, especially the Bible, the Old Testament, how was it? How did it come down to us? And later, around 200 or 300 BC, where with the coming of Alexander the Great, and the whole world became Greek, and Greek was the language. And in the Bible, in Isaiah, it says there were 6 villages in Egypt that spoke the Canaanite language. Whoa, what is that? I mean, it's because of a diaspora, the Jews went everywhere, and especially around Egypt, around the Nile Delta, and there are more Jews there than in Canaan. So what happens then, they couldn't speak Hebrew anymore, and now the Hebrew scriptures need to be translated into Greek, and therefore we have the Septuagint. And with the Septuagint being much more earlier, we have more copies of it closer to the originals, where we don't have any copies of the original Tanakh in its Paleo-Hebrew form, or especially in its very early Phoenician or Proto-Sinaitic form. And oftentimes, if we cannot read the Hebrew, we refer to the Septuagint being more recent. So a lot of names, even in the Old Testament, are Greek names. And because of that, there is a problem with the dating, especially when we refer to every pharaoh as Ramesses, and we think, oh yeah, Ramesses. But if you think that that's the Ramesses in history, it's very late. So it it could not be the Ramesses of Joseph or of Moses. This is a topic for another day. And also the Egyptian is very long and hard, especially for people to translate. So they could have in the Septuagint shorten it. But one very important thing that I will mention, and this article seems to testify to it, is this book by Douglas Petrovich. Well, this article is really good, but it seems to believe in Petrovich. Petrovich has seen the inscription in Serabit and said, look, and he, for some reason, was able to read a narrative in it, whereas other people can't. And he says, look, I can read Joseph as being there. I can see his family, Manasseh, and Ephraim as being there. And, so he, for some reason, was able to read into it a narrative which others cannot. But the important part is no, I don't have it here. But the important thing is about the article is there was a very early script that they could have used, which I'm sure they did. And Petrovich saying that he could read a narrative in it is incorrect, and he's selling his book, Hebrew, the first alphabet. Whether that is or not is not important. But you can buy his book if you can afford it. It costs $1,200. But like I said, more important is the little glimpses of the script that we see, and we can be sure that there was something that was used to write down the early scriptures, what God says. What did God say? Throughout the Torah, throughout the first 5 books, God continuously told Moses what to write. I mean, if there was no alphabet or nothing, and even God himself wrote out the 10 commandments on those stone tablets. What script was that? That is more important, that there was something that was used, and it did not come down to us. And it doesn't really matter with the development. We know, we can ascertain that this is correct, that we do not have to worry that, that it's been corrupted or anything, that it is correct. There was something, and this is the development, and this is very exciting. And what we have left really are those inscriptions on stone and on silver, the Katephinom scrolls, which had the old Paleo-Hebrew script, and which later developed into the Arabic square script that we know today. And after the Masoretic text with the dagesh, the dot, dot, dash, dash, where we have the vowel sounds of Hebrew. I hope this has helped you, because it's really helped me. And that part of my knowledge and education was missing, and I'm glad to have added to it. And I hope you're glad too.
To organize was the mining of turquoise in Sinai. And this genius man, who was trained to read the hieroglyphs, write the hieroglyphs, but also being a Semite, came up with something quite extraordinary at a place called Sarabat el-Kadim, which is the main turquoise mine in Sinai, which is up the top of this mountain. I'll do this very quickly. You climb up to the heights in the middle of Sinai, and you arrive at a temple here, right on the top of the mountain. This is the temple of Hathor, who is the lady of turquoise, the goddess of the turquoise mines. These still are all dedicated to her, and they have Semitic names on them of the workforce that was sent here to mine the turquoise. Here is Hathor, the goddess with the strange wig and the eyes. She's called Hathor, and here we have Meket Mofkat, which is the lady of turquoise, which is her title. Here is one of the mines where they excavated the turquoise, and what Petrie found in here was quite remarkable. He found a script carved on the mine face, and it's clearly hieroglyphics, but nobody could read it. It didn't read Egyptian. So Petrie was scratching his head and couldn't work it out, and then Sir Alan Gardner came along and worked out what was going on here, and he realized that it was actually Hebrew, but written in hieroglyphs. And it's called Proto-Sinaitic. So here is your Hebrew alphabet with the earliest form of writing. So what happens, for instance, I'll give you an example here. The water sign in Egyptian hieroglyphs is the word for nu, water, but in Hebrew it's mayim. So that becomes the letter M. The house, beit, Egyptian pear. Okay, so brilliantly, he takes Egyptian hieroglyphic signs, he actually gives the Hebrew name to them, and the first letter of the Hebrew name becomes the letter of the alphabet. And it can go all the way through the alphabet, right the way down to Tav, which of course is the cross. And this one over here, Aleph, which is the ox. Let me give you an inscription from there, which you can read just about, if I highlight it. This says, Mem, Aleph, Ayin, Mem. It's a very crude form of the word, Mayim, and that is a leather water bag. Water. Let's look at the letter Aleph, just to show you how that evolves into the modern alphabet. Here is our modern letter A. You could do this with all the letters of our alphabet. This is it in Phoenician, rotated 90 degrees with the cross member breaking through the diagonals. And this is it in Proto-Sinaitic from this particular cave.